Okay. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me this evening on the late one in review, where we look at some of the top news in the world. Of course, we cannot touch everything in the world, so we touch on what we can. And as you know, that the world is on its edge in the sense in regards to this war. But people say, well, it's not a war, it's like a bully and a small and a minor one. But yet at the same time, it's atrocities which is going on across there in the world, in Ukraine and Poland. And there's so many other aspects to it. But tonight, I wanted to touch on something, another angle of the whole thing. And the angle is Russia and Ukraine, the conflict continues. But what else is being uncovered? You know, let's look at it from a different perspective because we are bombarded by so much information. One would think that is a propaganda machine actually going on, just like they had World War One, World War Two, and one has got to be very careful as to what we're taking in. But without further ado, I'm going to be joined tonight by my key guest, which is going to be Reverend Gary Graham. I'm from Leeds, and I'm also going to be joined by a special guest from Poland, Reza Ostad, an international law graduate. Studied in Bournemouth University here in the UK, and he's also the CEO of Plucker Legal Group, Warsaw, and a law lecturer at Warsaw University of Management. So we're going to have a conversation as he's in Poland, and we can hear from his side and from his perspective as well. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in both Gary and Reza at this time. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing, sir?
Bless you. I'm doing good.
Good
Yeah.
evening, Sylbourne. Good
Hi,
evening,
hi,
Gary.
hi. How are you? Uh, thank you for coming on all the way from Poland, Reza. And also thank you, Gary, for coming all the way from Leeds. um, Gary, you seem like you're Reza. Does it look like Gary has been frozen? Does it look like his picture is frozen, or is it mine? No, I
No,
think
it's all right. Like
it's all right.
he's all right.
Maybe it's me.
Actually, you're frozen, Sylbourne.
I'm frozen. Well,
Yes.
I don't think Putin has anything to do with this because did we say anything about Putin? We didn't say anything bad about Putin a while ago, did we?
No, no,
Okay, so I don't
not,
think you should
not
have
yet
come.
anyway.
I can be seen now. I can be seen now. But listen, so much things is happening in this world. So much. At one point, I was gonna say that we don't even sometimes know what is happening, and I'm also seeing an underbelly, which is the the a racist element which is coming out as well. But let me start with you, Reza. How are you, and how is Poland?
Personally, I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yeah.
And however, Poland seems to be tension is escalating here. People have been, as I said already, earlier, people here in Poland, they have been through a lot of wars, a lot of occupations and partitions, and that's why they haven't got a good memory when it comes to wars or anything related to war. They gained their independence, their democracy 30 something years ago, and they are quite proud, happy nation, and they don't want things to change at all. People in Poland do not like change. There are so many Ukrainians living here, living and coexisting happily. People, they have like tradition, let's say traditional, cultural, even linguistic similarities. Even like Ukrainian people learn Polish language very fast. Within the I don't know the first 6 months of coming here, they learn the language, and they actually play a very important role in the communities, in the society,
Mm.
living happily shoulder to shoulder with Polish people. And that's why when you talk to the Poles, they are quite upset and worried. They don't like their Ukrainian sisters and brothers to be in such dire straits at the moment.
Mm. That
This is
that that
what's happening.
yeah, that's very interesting. Gary, just moving out for a second. Tell us, eh, let's set the stage. Let's set the stage for what is happening in Russia and Ukraine. I mean, you're right there, right in the next door. I mean, because you're right on the borders there. What's your take on this whole thing? What's your view? What's your perspective? Sometimes it's some people are sometimes saying who is right, who is wrong. But tell me, what's your perspective, Reza?
You
What's
know,
going
I believe, there is more into the story than we are experiencing and what we see on the social media.
on? Yeah,
It goes. I think it's got a kind of historical background. If you allow me, I go back a bit to 2013, 2014, when Yanukovych was the former president and of Ukraine. He had to be overthrown by a coup that they call it like Maidan coup, and an American-friendly government had to be replaced, and so it was really Putin's worst nightmare
mm,
that was losing its influence on Ukraine, and of course, like if you know net national endowment for democracy, which is like a U.S. planned just a regime change in Ukraine in 2013, and Noland was the Assistant Secretary of the State of the European Affairs
yeah,
back then, and a long time regime change advocate. Of course, he played a very important role in Iran, my home country as well, in the recent years. And that the U.S. government he actually confessed that the U.S. government had spent $5 billion promoting democracy, as they call it, in Ukraine since 1991. And the money actually obviously went to the senior officials who were supporting the American interest in that country.
yeah.
And of course, is a key organization in the network of American soft power, as we call it.
Are you frozen?
It looks like
I think Reza is frozen there.
Dollars a year on inter regimes. So this Ukrainian regime was, let's say, government was obviously a U.S. Friendly regime. We don't know how. We don't want to judge it. We don't want to discuss or analyze how and why it came to power, because it's very much complicated issue and it requires like a very long discussion. This is not really a core of core subject of the discussion here. But anyways, that was the Putin's worst nightmare. That's why Putin attacked Crimea and had to kind of because Crimea plays a very important role also in the strategies, and it's a very strategic place. Of course, it used to belong to Russia in 1954.
Yeah,
It to the Ukrainian Soviet, and since then it became a part of Ukraine. So this strategic area has access to not only the Baltic Sea but also the Black Sea. So obviously, a Crimea controlled by the U.S., let's say, friendly government was a major threat to the Russian naval access. That's why Russian had to make that move back then. And so the Crimea was, let's say, kind of captured, or let's say rejoined to the Russian territory, and but I think it's all about shift. it's about power shift, but I don't want to be to continue because it's if I continue, I will continue.
Yeah.
It's I go to a different direction, but I would like Gary and you to also
Mm.
tell us what you think, and then I will continue. Obviously, I have.
Gary, what
Yeah.
I mean, we have seen a week now of this. Many people are saying that Putin has miscalculated, or is Putin on target. Um, is it difficult, or is it difficult to pick sides? Is it wise to pick sides with this, or this whole war?
Let me let me begin by saying it really is a pleasure for me to be on this platform with
Mm.
Reza, really, and to hear from his perspective, at least somebody from Poland, from as close as it's probably physically possible for someone like him
Yeah,
to join us, and at least to share. Because I mean, I could listen to him all night. I think
yeah.
I could learn so much from him in as much as his perspective and what also I believe the Polish people, um, what they're feeling and what they're saying and communicating to each other. I think that as he mentioned just before you went live, and even now I think he alluded to it, that the feeling in Poland seems to be much more heightened now than at any other time since the war, because obviously, um, things are beginning to heat up a bit. Things are
Mhm.
beginning to ratchet up, and if you listen to if you listen to the various news articles that's going on out there, BBC, ITV, Sky, if you listen to Al Jazeera, and again, if one listens to RT, now we all know that RT has been taken off the of the well, not of the internet, of the cable
Yeah,
news in the UK. So
yes.
we can't hear anything unless you go onto the internet, and it's quite surreal, really, in a sense that in Russia they are not hearing of the atrocities that's happening in the Ukraine. They're not hearing anything. Whereas if you listen to news articles here and also Al Jazeera, strangely enough, you're hearing of terrible things taking place. Cities, towns. It would seem that they just completely. There's no soldiers there from Ukraine. It would seem. It would seem that's
Mm.
not there. But they're being bombed. They're being destroyed. I mean, houses, residential areas are being bombed. It would, even though the Russians are saying that they are not targeting residential areas.
Mm.
What? That's what they're doing. Now, the question you asked, Sil, in the
Mm.
sense of if one can take sides, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, it depends on what you listen to. And
Yes.
Mhm.
those who are this side of the world, let us say this side with Poland, we are hearing of terrible things. We're hearing of horrible, I mean, atrocities. But those on the other side of Poland, let us say Russia and that side of the world, they're not hearing what's happening in Russia, or they're not hearing of what's taking place in Ukraine. And that's the sad
Mm.
thing. And for us here listening to that, I mean, I'm just very saddened. I mean, there's only one side I can take, and that's the Ukrainian side. I
Yeah.
feel very, very sad for what's happening there. And I can understand why the Polish people may be very nervous. Now, one of my questions I would love to hear from Reza is, um, does Poland feel that they could be attacked even though they are a part of NATO? Do they feel afraid that they could be attacked?
And before you answer that point there, Razor, do they feel like they can be attacked? Because we spoke about that briefly. What's your take on what Gary said earlier with the information? On this side of the world, we are being fed one information one way, and on the other side, they are not getting that. What's your take on the information coming through,
I totally agree with what
Gary?
straight to the point. And the reason is because we are really listening to what they want us to listen to, like the filtering, the censorship in Facebook and in other social media is very obvious, and like comments are being like you leave comments, they don't like it, it's deleted straight away. It's very much sensitive to a lot of to so many particular words, and of course they have to make the whole public opinion ready for whatever needs to be done. The
Yes.
United States attacked Afghanistan. The 20 years of stay in Afghanistan, 1 million children and women and civilians died. And who was this much? Nobody was really worried about what was happening in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Syria, in the past when we go to the South America.
Yes.
What kinds of atrocities were being done by the United States back then. And for example, whatever now the United States is shifting its power. Actually, I don't believe that Joe Biden is weak. He's probably physically and mentally very weak, but he is like a fox, and he knows what he's doing. He's been trained by this globalist system, and of course he knows exactly how to play this chess. I believe he put to a very much critical circumstance for Putin to play this game. It's like playing. He's a good chess player, and he. Of course, they wanted Putin to do that. You know, that's the United States, because it's a win-win game for the state, for the American government. Imagine why. Okay, I have very good reasons for that. If you want to hear
Please.
that, the first reason is the Russian was gaining a lot of power in the Middle East by taking control and influence on the regional countries, and like Iran and Syria and other countries, as you guys know already. But at the same time, was supplying the gas and oil to us here in Europe. 70% of European gas is imported from Russia. And if you know that Germany also already halted the Nord Stream 2 Baltic Sea gas pipeline, which was supposed to bring the gas straight away from Russia to supply Germany as the sole distributor of the Russian gas into the market here in Europe. Of course, there are three pipelines, all straight away. One goes through Belarus, the other one comes from Ukraine, and the other one straight goes to Germany. By weakening Russia, America would lead into a different several games. Russia is the good old, let's say, enemy of the United States. Of course, by weakening the Russian economy, they can start regaining the power in the region. Russia, the new sanctions are going towards Russian economy, the central bank of Russia, and I'm not sure about the SWIFT, if it's already been applied, the SWIFT sanction on Russia.
Yeah.
by weakening this country's economy, and also the military exposure which Russia is now experiencing. Also, the Putin itself himself would be considered as an evil, just to demonize the leaders of that part of the world. Of course, United States would gain a lot of like power, and it would feed its interests, and and America is of course controlling has control monopoly control over the media. Let's say these days, so they are controlling the media. That's one point. On the other hand, when Russia starts weakening, that's why, let's say, a German chancellor would like to close the deal with Iran, this nuclear talks, because now they're looking for the second, let's say, the alternative gas supplier into Europe. And United States has already sanctioned Iran, so Iran is not able to officially export its gas to Europe. The gas prices have increased here dramatically, and it has really is causing a lot of damage to the European economy, which is already in the hands of the United States. The United States doesn't want a strong Europe, doesn't want strong Russia, doesn't want strong China. It only wants a strong United States. And so with this news, the power was being shifted, but the United States once again, I believe, stopped this power shift and is regaining its imperialist power once again uh, uh, by playing this dirty game. This
And
is
where do
what
you
I
and
think.
where does NATO plays that role? But is NATO in the back pocket of the Americans?
Of course, NATO was the main, let's say, trap for the actually the main tool for Russians for the by encouraging Ukraine to join NATO, and they knew that they are pushing Putin's buttons by encouraging NATO. That Putin is not going to tolerate that. It's like, can you imagine, like in the United States, somebody puts guns and weaponaries on the border of Mexico and Canada,
Yeah.
aiming to the United States. The United States is not going to tolerate that, and they knew by playing this game, Russia would invade Ukraine, because Russia had just a fraction of time to let's say execute before Ukraine was officially the member of NATO. So they knew that they put Putin into a case, into a situation to invade Ukraine, I believe, and they knew Putin would fall into, and he did. Now Ukrainian government, Ukrainian sovereignty is sacrificed for because the United States needs to regain its power.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you again for joining us this evening on the In Review, where we look at some of the news. I'm joined by Reza Ostad, law lecturer from Warsaw, Poland, and Gary Graham, Reverend Gary Graham from Leeds. And for those on Instagram, you can go onto YouTube, Sylbourne TV. I want to bring in my other guest, which is on the sideline, who contribute with their views. And Michelle Clark, she's in the States, and what she said, when the government want to sell us a course of action, do it by making sure it's the only thing on the agenda, the only thing everyone's talking about. What's your take on that? And then there's a similarity when it came on to COVID, because it is like right now, I think we can all agree that we are being fed one narrative. And a few weeks back, before Putin made this move, we're all fed another narrative. What's your take on what Michelle said there? And I can put that to you both, you and Gary. Let Michelle take the seat there. Yeah.
I think, I mean, it's very interesting. it's very interesting to hear Reza. Why? Because look where Warsaw is at this
Mm.
moment, right next door to Ukraine. However, Reza, let's say, I don't know if he would agree if he is talking for the majority of the Polish, or he's talking for a minority of the Polish, or he's talking. I know that he's not representing any government. I know that. I'm just saying. I just want to bring a point
Are you
here.
sure?
I know that, but let me say, it's interesting to know that he's talking not in favor of what the United States is doing,
Mm.
even though Poland is a free state now. Obviously, he gave a very quick history lesson
Yes.
of Poland just a few moments ago, and Poland, yes, was under for a period of 100 and so years, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
123 years.
yes, under a communist, is it a communist regime or something like that?
It was partitioned between three different countries back in the history,
Right.
Poland. And
Okay.
then, so it means like people have always been suffering from wars and invasions. And that's why when the war, like the subject of war comes up, everybody is really very much panicked.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let us say, and we all know, according in the political world, that the United States, the president of the United States, is the leader or the president of the free world, and Poland is a part of the free world. Let us say, Poland doesn't want to go back under a communistic kind of rule or authority to some extent. They want to remain free. However, Reza is not talking in favor of what the United States is doing, and that is quite unique. And I'm wondering if there are countries within Europe, like Lithuania, we've got Czech, we've got Slovenia, the other former communist satellites, if they feel the same way. It's quite interesting because if anything does happen in Europe, let us say, because we know right now that the situation in Ukraine is like a tinderbox. Just one wrong move, just one wrong move, and the whole of Europe could be brought into this. And but if Europe comes in, the United States is going to also come in. I think that goes without saying. And based on what Reza has raised, if if they blame the US for what's happening, because yes, I do agree with you, Reza. President Biden, he's the oldest president they say so far.
Mm.
Yes, he's very delicate. We all know that, and they even make fun and jokes that he's gone senile and all that kind of stuff, and he loses his focus and all of that. That is one thing. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, what Reza has noticed is that he's like a fox. He knows exactly
What
what
he's
he's
doing.
doing, and so therefore, um, if the other countries and if the rest of Poland is expressing what Reza is doing, not is
Same.
expressing what Reza is saying, yeah, which is quite funny, really. It's quite what's the word? This, interesting. It's
Interesting.
quite
Yeah. Mm.
interesting. Um, you know, what next then? What next? What is the next thing that must take place, Reza, in order to keep the US out, but to maintain peace in Europe right now, to appease the Russians, to keep Ukraine free, but at the same time to keep US out. What do you think?
Mhm.
If you were at the table to negotiate, what would you say? What would you say? What would you be talking about?
Um, I think it comes to the military power. Like whoever who is spending more money on the military is stronger, and the stronger says the last word.
Mhm.
I think also the whole escalation of war like gave a kind of excuse to Germany to also increase its military budget to 100 billion USD just a few days ago, which was
Mhm.
very much an unprecedented decision which was made by the chancellor. And imagine Russia has only 70 billion USD military budget. USA, Germany now increased to 100 billion. United States solely has 780 billion USD military budget, which
Mhm.
is far more than any other country in the world. So it leaves the United States the sole player of power in the world. So the more budget you have, the more powerful you are.
Yeah.
Germany, I think, took this opportunity to increase its military budget to 100 billion because in a normal situation, if Germany would have done that, it would have been a chaos for the rest of Europe. Uh, After Brexit, imagine a country inside the European Union suddenly increasing the military budget to 100 billion, and it would really be very much scary for the other countries here within Europe. So, but this escalation provided this excuse for Germany to do so. So we can also see the power is shifting. The world order is shifting now, and
With
I
with
think I am quite worried, to be honest with you. I'm worried for Europe because what is happening is
Yeah.
uh, they are pushing a lot of soldiers and military into the borders of Russia, of
One of
Ukraine.
yeah. One of
In
the things I was thinking, Reza, I was just thinking a moment ago that America, in a way, are watching, and as you said about Biden, are watching and gleefully maybe saying, let's squeeze Russia, all the sanctions, go what they want to squeeze the juice out of him. So even if Russia takes over Ukraine, they will still have all grounds to keep going for Putin because right now, I think some of the countries have now talking about war crimes against Putin, against Russia at the same time. So in a way, one can say one could say it's a win-win for America at this point if they maintain the status quo and don't go into a full-blown war. Because a full-blown war, of course, we know that's the end of the conversation we're going to have here now. I'll have to go back to Jamaica and Gary or go some other place if we can.
let, I
Gary,
mean,
yeah.
I would like to put into the mix. I mean, Razor has is really dropping some points here, and I
Mm,
think it's points that I think that we should even mention and take note of. For instance, Germany. Now we all know the history of Germany. We
yeah.
all know also that Germany really for since 1945, like Japan, they were not really allowed to have an army or military force. Now, if you notice, Germany is coming back through the ranks of even as Razor noted and mentioned that they are now spending more money, GDP, I would say, on military might, bearing in mind what the Germans have done throughout history.
Mm,
Now, I'm not saying that Merkel has had didn't portray it, and Schultz, is that his name? This one, this this chancellor. I can't remember his name,
The new
but
guy, yeah.
yeah, the new guy. This chancellor, he's not been in there long enough, but all most of the chancellors or prime ministers or prime mayors of Germany throughout the years, they've always projected a stance of superiority. Now, from what Reza have said, take note. He said that the Europeans are becoming very nervous.
Mm.
Are they getting nervous of Germany? As he's already been saying, there is a power shift in Europe. Things are changing. Things will never be the same again. And I think we've got to note here that America is quite. Listen to what President Trump said and did while he was in power. What did he say and do? He withdrew a lot of the funding of the Americans out of Europe. Why? Because he was saying, why is America spending so much money to protect a continent that they're not, it's no business of them being there. So
And
he
also and
withdrew a
also
lot of that.
and also pull back funds from NATO as well, or get NATO
Exactly.
people to pay. Yeah.
He said the Europeans must protect themselves. He started the process. When he left, the process may have lost momentum, but the process is still going on. Biden may be trying, or the American government may be trying to put a foot in, but the process has begun. There is a power shift. And that is what Putin also has recognized. That's why he's gone for Ukraine. Poland is nervous, and rightly so. Why? Because Putin may want to go for
Countries.
for other countries, but he's going to be very careful because NATO may step in, and if NATO steps in, which I don't think that the Americans want to confront, I don't think that's the case. I
Mm.
was reading something, my friends. I don't really mean to take this, right? But
No, no.
it's quite interesting. I don't know if Reza has seen it or it's widely. But the American generals, they noticed or they asked the question, where are or where is the Russian Air Force? Where are the planes? Because Russia has not shown the superiority of the skies of Ukraine as they thought they would. Now, there seems to be a lot of bombardment in Ukraine, but the air superiority that Russia should have, it's not there. And they're wondering, where are they? Now, you see, I believe and I think that, and I would partly agree with what Reza has said, that Europe is looking. Germany is the powerhouse of Europe. I think we've got to be quite clear about that. They are the powerhouse of Europe, both financially, even though they say that the center is in London, but the powerhouse for Europe is Germany, and Germany is beginning to step up. They're spending first. They're going to spend, and I believe that I don't think that Russia will go for any other state, but they'll push. They say that Russia over the years in history is the bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does bears do? They're not quick, they're not fast in movement, but they'll push. You
And
know,
once they
they'll
get to once they get to, they rip you apart though.
yeah. And that's
Razor,
what
yeah.
they're doing in the Ukraine.
Razor, based on what Gary said, and you can pick up other things what he said, but one thing that stood out there is, and someone just said they like your analysis, a twin Begley, big not bigamy. Germany with Merkel was a powerhouse. Germany made a move now, which is sending war weapons, which they never normally do. Is it like what Gary said? Germany is now. breaking out and say, "Hey, it's a new order, it's a new day. We got to protect ourselves. We got to think about this."
Uh, if I were a European like government, I would really be scared of what is happening right now, because Olaf Scholz, who is the Chancellor of Germany, is not buying the new weapons from France. It's buying from the United States.
Mm,
And this is a big problem. Like imagine inside the European Union, you don't trust your own neighboring, let's say, union, and you're just still purchasing you're spending this budget on outside the borders. So this kind of rings the bell for me to be a bit scared when it comes to trusting Germany. Also, I'm very much happy that Poland has already gained its sovereignty and is now not really playing by the rules of I mean, like not totally being like the puppet of Russians or Americans.
mm,
Of course, playing political games is not in the chair of the power. Poland is not the strongest country here. I mean, in the world or in Europe. Of course, we've got much more stronger, much stronger countries than Poland. So we have to like play our own game here when it comes to the politics. But still worried because every single time, if you look back into the history, when a war started here in Europe, the first country was Poland. So of course we are scared here. Of
yep.
course we are really, really not really happy. And another thing is like I think this is a kind of American get back plot
Yeah.
to once again regain the absolute world power and win the power scale fight. So U.S. credibility is going to be needs to be increased after what they did with Afghanistan for
Yeah.
20 years. All the atrocities they kind of forced into that nation and invaded Syria and Iraq as well, and all the sanctions they put on the Iranians and other countries, and so they're just like the sole ruler of the world.
Mm,
And of course, China is coming. China is coming to get them. But when it comes to the let's say justice, I don't really think that we can also trust Chinese when they gain the world power, when they become the sole power in the world one day, maybe. So it's not really a fair world. It's not a fair era at this time. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It's a new era, I think. I think the world of politics has already started, entered into a new era, very much unknown to the politicians. We can take our wild guesses here, but at the end of the day, the future is very much obscure.
So,
This
so,
is
so,
what we
so,
think.
so therefore, what we're seeing unfolding before our very eyes is something bigger than the present conflict, isn't it? With Ukraine and Poland, there's a bigger playing field which is happening. Something bigger is going down. And before we talk about another point regarding this, which is unfold, can we wrap up on this particular point as to where do you see this in the next week or so? Do you think Putin is on track? Yeah. Many people say he has missed the boat and he miscalculated. He's saying that he's on track. Do you think he's a madman, or do you think he knows exactly what he's doing? I'm going to put that to both you, Reza, and I put that to Gary, and I put that to other persons as well, based on the question I had. Do you think Putin is a madman? Do you think he's on track? Do you think he has lost it, or based on what we have just talked about, the analysis by Gary, the analysis by Reza, we are seeing that this is something bigger that the mainstream media is not talking about. But hey, Sylbourne TV is the better media. Go on. Reza, I throw that one to you first, please.
Yeah, I think Putin is not. He's as mad as
We lost it. Repeat again.
Biden.
We
I think
lost it.
they're all both mad. You know,
Oh man. You
it's
mean
not
you
like
mean you mean
I don't want
Zelensky?
to take.
You're talking
It's not.
Zelensky as well.
They are both imperialists. Putin is Biden is a globalist,
Mm,
and they're feeding their economy by uh, uh, kind of let's say uh, meddling with other countries and interfering with other countries' internal affairs, by stealing money from other countries, by sanctioning other countries, by taking other countries as hostage, by playing dirty games like mafias. Of course, they are all mad.
mm.
They can be, we don't know. Macron said this is going to be a long war. And I believe he knows what's happening because he met Putin before Putin started the war, just a few weeks before that. He had a sitting with him and he discussed the matters with him. Of course, Putin doesn't play his own, doesn't come out of he doesn't like tell him exactly what it's going on in the back of his mind. But Macron said that this is going to be a very long war. And I believe it's going to be a long war. And if Putin is going to push the buttons of nuclear bombs, I don't believe so. I don't think he's as mad, like that mad to go to that extent. But if the maybe the United States wants to push him to go really crazy by
Yeah.
sending I don't know, but whatever they're doing, I don't want to open that, but I don't believe that he's going to be mad on his own. If a cat is caught in the corner, might like show its uh, claws, and the claws of Putin are his nuclear bomb. And even he said a few weeks ago, last Saturday, I believe, I was following the news that his defense minister said they have put all the nuclears on the special alert,
I
which
think
is
one of the reasons why they said they did that was because our foreign secretary Liz Truss, she said that Brits can go over there and to fight war, and they said it was because of her, which they put them on alert. I want to bring in just what other persons are saying as I invited persons to speak. Andrew Allen is saying Putin isn't mad; he's just a very determined and bold. Someone here in Instagram saying, I think if the EU and the US makes a statement that Ukraine will stay neutral, we could go a long way for a ceasefire, right? Think about that point. If the EU and the US make the statement that Ukraine will stay neutral, we go a long way. Somebody else Michelle said that, what did she say? No, he isn't a madman at all. The media is painting him out to be one. Putin is calculating, knows exactly what he's doing. Marlon says Putin also underestimated the global response. It's a sad time for Russians. They'll never survive another Cold War, you know. Um, and Dean Morris, I like that analogy. Gary, what's your take on this point? Is Putin a madman, or is he calculated, or is he on track?
Um,
I know you spoke to him last week, so
I mean, in our Western thinking, yes, probably some would probably say he's a madman, but he's calculating. I think that he has made his own calculations of what may happen. You know, no man goes to war unless they know they can fight a war, and he's made that calculation. That's why he's done it. Back in the 1990s, he did tell Europe, and he told the United States as well as NATO, do not accept Ukraine as a member. He's
Yeah.
always maintained that. And the only reason why, as I think Ariza has alluded to, why he made that move is because the Ukrainians have said that they are going to be members. If they had rejected it, if they had turned their backs to say, okay, we won't, probably Putin wouldn't have done it. But obviously, there was something there that caused him to move, to act the way he did. So he's calculating. He's not as I don't think he's deluded or anything like that. But obviously, he's taking life, needless life. Refugees, people who had homes, people who had jobs, people who had cars, people who had going on holidays, traveling the world in one swoop, in a matter of let's say 5 days, all that's taken away, and most of them now have gone to refugee camps just over the border in Poland. They've got
Yes.
nothing. They've got nothing at all. They've left their cars in their homes.
Mm.
They've left their homes, probably damaged by bombs now. They've got nothing. The banks have closed down. Some of them probably had money. It's worth nothing now. They can't even get it if they could, I suppose. So for him to be doing that this time,
Yeah.
it's sad. I just feel very sad for the Ukrainians.
You
The
know.
Europeans, let me just say this one thing
Yeah.
in support of Reza has says, really, the Europeans, the the majority, they love America, but they don't like the policies of the Americans.
Yes.
Europeans don't like Americans really, or don't like the policies of the American government.
Yeah. Someone just said on Instagram, Ukraine is Russia's Cuba. Just like what has happened in the past with 1962 with Kennedy. It is interesting what you just said a while ago about what's happening in Europe. Can I just point out that the media, and it was exposed whereby they were saying these are not like Middle Eastern, African, North Africa people. These are blonde, blue-eyed persons, and we are seeing something else coming up. Hence the reason for my topic, and I want to see if we can tap into that even for the next few minutes or so. Reza, you said you picked up something. I mean, you're Iranian by descent. Racism. What have you seen, or what have you picked up as well with this war?
Actually, the news is I'm hearing like very much different news, because when you cannot really generalize something you watch on YouTube or Instagram and say, oh right, so this is like a racist, this country is racist because you saw a racist action somewhere.
Yeah.
Of course, people are different. We are at a very critical moments these days. The history is always all their tension, and people are not really acting in the right state of mind. When put yourself in the bus driver or train drive I don't know, conductor's shoes. You see your own nation, your own people are left behind, and there are some, I don't know, brown or black people also in the queue. And human being is a very complicated creature when it comes to analyzing the anthropologist sides of the brain.
Yeah.
So we might react or act in very much differently in different circumstances. I don't want to justify what I also saw, what everybody saw these days on social media. I don't want to justify it. Of course, I condemn all those racist actions, racist movements towards Africans or Indians or some darker skin or even foreigners, not non-Ukrainians.
Somebody just said, "Don't beat around the bush now." Michelle, when Michelle is here, she's straight to the point.
Yes, yes, yes. But anyways, this is what I think. This is what I think that. But racism is everywhere. Everywhere. If you can never say racism is already abolished. It's gone. No, racism is still there. It just comes out here and there, from this place to that place. The most racist place I've ever been to, believe it or not, has been United Arab Emirates.
Mm,
So United Arab Emirates, I've been the victim of discrimination and racism in that country, big time, several times myself. And but everybody says that's now the future, and it's the future world, and this is how humans are going to live in the future. It's the future city and so forth. But still, in the future city, you see racism,
yeah.
and and Middle Easterns being racist against Middle Easterns, it's even worse. But it doesn't come out that easily because you're Middle Eastern and they are Middle Eastern. So it's not. So what kind of racism is that? I call it discrimination.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I condemn. I condemn personally any sort of racism. And I know a lot of Ukrainians, very nice people.
Mm,
I know a lot of Poles. I'm not Polish at all myself. I live here in Poland, but I'm not Polish. But I've never seen any racist comment or anything towards me whatsoever since I moved to this country. Beautiful people, beautiful nation, very much friendly. I say to Polish people, you're a nation with cold faces and warm hearts. And this is true. And like Ukrainians are the same.
yeah.
Of course, at the time of war, I don't want to generalize that really, because I know Ukrainians, I know Poles, and I don't think they are racist really.
Okay.
Or, yeah.
Thanks for that, Reza. And of course, we are relying on the information that's coming through. Some on social media, some on BBC Africa as well. Gary, I don't know if you have seen some of the students or people from African nations, Nigerian, trying to get on the train, and they claim, and you have seen the images that they are being asked to leave unless you're Ukrainian. And
Yeah, yes, yes, I have. I mean, as Reza says, just a few moments ago, and even alluded um, at the beginning of this program, just like as you did also, it's the narrative, the news, the media. They will they will always present something so as to get the attention of those who are watching.
mhm,
Racism, discrimination is all over the world. It's here in the UK, as you know, even in Jamaica. You know this still, even in Jamaica, right?
yes,
Even amongst Jamaicans, we've got Jamaicans that is as white as razor, right? And
whiter
if
than razor.
whiter than razor, and they are more Jamaican than me and you, yeah. But the thing about it is this: that if he went for the same job that you and I went to, he would probably get it. Why? Because because of his color. So wherever you go, whoever you are, there's going to be a degree of discrimination.
Racism.
Sadly to say, there's going to be a degree of racism. It shouldn't be there, but it's going to be there. It's going to be there. It should not be there. I'm not in favor of it. I wish we could stamp it out.
Yeah.
It's just sad though that we've had Africans. There's been a few Jamaicans there who has wanted to board the trains, the buses, whatever to leave Ukraine, and they haven't been allowed. If they were on it, they've had to come off
Mm.
just to let. I mean, there was one particular one. I don't know if you saw it, Sil, where
Yeah.
there was a young girl, girl who was obviously she was there. She was studying. The soldier or whoever was on the train, and they shouted out, "All the women, all the women." So
Oh
she
yes.
came up, and they were still calling. So she then said, so to speak, when I'm a woman, I'm a woman, because she had a mask on, obviously they have masks. So I'm a woman, and he says, all the women, and then he then turns to her and say, all the Ukrainian women.
Mm. Mm.
That is sad. That is
Yeah.
very, it was plain to see. It
Yeah.
was plain to see that they were really turning away all the women who were not Ukrainian or white or black, say, or black.
Yes. It's
It's just sad. It's sad.
yeah, it's very sad, and it's unfortunate. And someone just reminded me a while ago, Reza, because there were 24 Jamaican students who were making their way back. Uh, they're back in Jamaica now. I think 20 has left. 20 came back to Jamaica, and one of them left their cat. I think there's an issue with their cat.
Yeah.
The cat a cat is very famous over there now as well. But you know, one of the things that I like to say though is when it talks about African Nigerians going to Ukraine to study, it's unfortunate that, and I don't know, maybe some African, someone from the African continent can confirm, but I wish they could have gone to Africa and do their studies. You know what I'm saying? You know, but I know persons. I've had guys that went to school with in Jamaica who went to Russia and studied,
Yes.
and so the world is a big place, and it's unfortunate. Well, Reza, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. It's a pleasure, all the way from Warsaw, and from
The
Iran.
pleasure is all mine, Silver.
Yeah, Lord,
Thank you for your invite.
no problem. Any last word you want to say to us? Because of course Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Reza, we're into motivation stuff, so we're going to be doing some motivational thing at another time. We'll sit down and chill. But any last word, Reza? Any last word before you go?
The last one I just want to mention here is about Putin, because that's something that I wanted to mention earlier. Putin has repeatedly made it clear that he believes the collapse of the Soviet Union has been the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century. So and he was a former KGB officer. So I believe that he's got all these ambitions to once again make before he goes or before he dies. He's now getting older,
Yes.
so maybe he wants to leave his
Legacy.
legacy
Yes.
somewhere, or in the history books.
Yes.
So that's why I say he might be a bit mad when you reach to some certain age, and you have unlimited power. So that power really makes you mad,
Yes.
and so he might do crazy stuff. So we might even be facing the Third World War, which
Yes.
I hope it will never happen. But I think the European Union need to be very much alert, not to push too many soldiers and amenities into the borders, and making him even mad, even
Yeah.
more mad as he is. So we just have to, of course, we have to save Ukraine. That's a different story. We have to help Ukrainians, but we don't have to make this crazy man crazier.
I like
You
that.
know, you know, there's a saying. Many people are saying that he's mad, And I say, if you're dealing with a madman, then why are you pushing a madman if you think he's mad? There's a saying, there's a saying, if a madman steal your clothes and you're naked, and if you're running him down for your clothes and you're naked, who do you think they're going to think the madman is? Right? Who do you think going to be the
Yeah.
madman? So I'm
Yeah.
saying, you guys think that Putin is mad. Then why are you pushing the madman then? You know, Gary, any last words, sir?
Well, one, I just like to, again, thank Reza that I could be with him and share this platform with him. I've learned quite a bit from him tonight in regards to um how the Polish are thinking. Secondly, I'd like just to, I didn't get to have a shout out to Michelle or to Deanne last week. I've only got two fans in the whole world that supports me on Sylbourne, and I must keep them happy. I must keep Deanne and Michelle happy because it looks like they're the only ones that sees when I'm on. But but it's great. It's great,
Yeah.
and I think that as Reza just mentioned, really, that yes, the European Union must be very careful what they do, because if they push back too hard, they do not know what Putin may do, and he may just do something to upset the apple cart, so to speak. So yes, I will agree with what Reza has shared tonight.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you so much for joining, Michelle, Dean, Twin Bagame, those on Instagram as well. Wayne Ferron, thank you. He says, "Absolute power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely." And Scotty, peace to the panel. Um, Reza, thank you. Marlon Barkey, Reza, thank you so much for coming on. Gary, thank you so much for coming on. I'm just gonna um, speak to you guys maybe later if you stay on. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yes. And Gary, thank you very much for being in this panel. It was my pleasure and honor to be here in this panel with you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
same here, same here.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you both. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining tonight. It was a great show. And of course, we are looking to do more guests, and Reza will come back at different times because we're going to be monitoring this whole thing which is happening with Europe. We've got to, people say we should just drink water and mind our own business, but I think that it's very important that we make this our business because if anything happens, we will be impacted, whether directly or indirectly. And also, we've got to be a part of the narrative and just watch the news. We focus on the news, watch what they are saying to us as well, double critically analyze it as well. Thank you so much for joining. See you next week. Saturday night, talk and sip. I look forward to you guys coming on Saturday night. And also, I like to encourage you to watch the show which I had with Miss uh, Joan Green, which was awesome. 11 plus. You need to watch that, where she's talking about how to encourage your children to learn about 11 plus. And Saturday night also we had live on YouTube. Is this World War II, III? Are we prepared? I had Joseph Patterson, who was the leader for the United Independent Congress, a political party in Jamaica. It was very informative and it was very good. Saturday night, we will be coming back with a guest, not sure who it is going to be, but down the road, I'm looking to have Jamaica National, Jamaica Victoria Mutual, different banks going to come on, and we're going to have them on the platform. That's on a Saturday night as well. And also, I've got M16, which is not a gun, which is a gentleman who is a preacher with a project which he's doing, an evangelistic program, sometime next week, either Tuesday or Wednesday. Have a good night. God bless you. Peace out. All the best to the world. Cheers.